Yonka Sikh still cannot believe it. Her husband Ahmed, a well-known journalist, has been in jail since early March. He faces serious charges, supporting a right-wing nationalist terrorist group that was plotting a coup. Prosecutors say their evidence is part of a new book by her husband, a book that hasn't even gone to print.
My husband has been researching this secret organization, Ergenekon, and its activities for 20 years now. All he did was observe that the charges being pressed against these people are not always balanced. We don't even know exactly what my husband is accused of doing. Our lawyer hasn't seen any evidence or proof. It looks like they're still looking for real evidence to use against Ahmet.
Journalists and publishers in Turkey are increasingly concerned. They've organized marches like this one in Istanbul to protest what they suspect is a government drive to suppress the media. Independent newspapers have been intimidated. TV stations have been pressured to cancel critical programs. Journalists like Ertugrul Mavioğlu are now alarmed that authorities are even taking steps against books that haven't been published yet. He too has had visits from police who wanted to search his computer.
They asked me whether I had a copy of Ahmed Sikh's manuscript. They wanted to copy it and then delete it from my hard drive. The prosecutor's order to confiscate the manuscript applied to anyone who had received it by mail, anywhere in the world. Anyone who doesn't hand it over voluntarily can be charged with supporting a terrorist conspiracy.
Turkey has been asserting itself as a candidate for European Union membership, as a tiger economy and a player in the global arena. But human rights activists say the government is squelching moves towards democracy. Overzealous public prosecutors would take advantage of vaguely worded laws.
Terrorist propaganda. What is terrorist propaganda if you don't define and limit the application of that law? And the current laws don't do that. So their vagueness means that almost any of us could find ourselves prosecuted under them.
It's getting harder and harder for journalists to do their job. Staff reporters of the independent daily Taraf have lost count of the threats and complaints against their paper, but they refuse to be intimidated.
If you've got a visit by the public prosecutor in the back of your mind every time you write an editorial, it can be very unpleasant. But you have to learn to live with it. After all, everyone in Turkey has realized by now what's happening to freedom of the press here. And not just one or two, but 64 journalists are now in prison.
Not only journalists have been affected. It's believed the police eavesdrop on about 80,000 telephones, many of them without any court order. People have started talking about a police state. Yonka Sikh is certain that her telephone is also bugged, but that doesn't stop her from trying to organize support for her husband, a journalist who, she says, is being treated like a hardened criminal.
He's allowed to get exercise in the prison courtyard just 1 hour a day, and he's only allowed to talk with his cellmate. When I visit him, we're usually separated by glass and have to speak by telephone. Sometimes they let us sit together at a table. Then we can hold each other's hands for 1 hour.
Sometimes Yonka Sikh thinks the whole thing is just an absurd misunderstanding that will soon be cleared up, but her hope is fading with every additional day that her husband spends in jail.